It was the idea that whilst you study conflict and destruction so much, here was a moment in history which went the other way. It was more about peace and play rather than conflict, death and destruction. And whilst we teach the First World War, and it can be, if you're not careful, one long trail of destruction, here was a moment of humanity that symbolised something much more positive. And that was the first thing that got us hooked into that moment in history, and the Peacefield project itself offered us something to celebrate, I suppose, and remember and commemorate this moment of humanity with our whole school community, and beyond that as well, our primary schools. Okay, I'll get across.
At least at one place on the other side here of Messines, we know a football was actually produced. A soldier sent home for a football. He was a professional player. He got the ball over. We actually had his family here not long ago, and that's how the game went on. But football, we always say, is a small part of the truces. But well, I had an American group yesterday who didn't have the slightest idea about World War I, but they all knew about the football and the Christmas truces. And we always say to our groups, if you rather put a football with your name on it next to the memorial, rather than a poppy wreath, or rather than doing the haka as the New Zealand soldiers do to remember, that's fine by us. There's so many different ways of remembrance, and football is a very nice way. It proves sports brings people together.
The potential to tell this story through using a ball as a teaching tool, it's universal. We know Sport for Peace and Development is global, but this gives it, this was an opportunity to tell an extraordinary history of something that happened long ago, but that is so relevant for today. And in the past, there have been many attempts to use football as that teaching tool, but the message always died with the ball. And in many places in the world, a ball doesn't last more than days when you live in a harsh urban environment or a refugee camp or tough inner cities across the world. So suddenly, to be able to have a ball that was inspired by and engineered for traumatized children who are experiencing war as we speak, to talk about this almost mythical happening here, but we know it happened. And it's really important also remember that most of these soldiers who died here by the millions and the tragedy and the unspeakable sacrifice that they made, they were teenagers too. This is not an old man's war.
And I think the Peacefields project is a wonderful way of achieving that fusion of the broad contextual issues with the local and the parochial and the personal. And I think what I've been impressed with over the course of the centenary period is the extraordinary interest people have in local and people that went to make up this period in history. At the end of the day, it is all about people.